What is going on, traders, and welcome to this week's episode of the Weekly Watchlist. The Weekly Watchlist is a video series I put out every Sunday where I do a technical analysis on 7 or so tickers with some of the most liquid options chains. It comes out every Sunday just to give you, as well as myself, a general idea of what to be watching for on Monday. So with that, let's go over the list real quick. As always, we have SPY, the Qs, Apple, Netflix, Tesla, Alibaba, Facebook, and our recent addition, NVDA. If you'd like to see anything else added to that list, feel free to message me somehow through email or leave something down in the comments section. Let me know and we can certainly take a look at it next time. As always, if you'd like to skip around and not necessarily follow me in order through the list from SPY down, there are timestamps in the description that will link you to the specific time where your ticker will start. So with that, let's get into it. Alrighty, so as always, starting off here with SPY, we've gone over our nice move to the downside here and then our bounce. So those are our supports and resistances from that. As you can see, towards the end of the week or midweek last week, we did some consolidating around the area. Of course, we had a small bounce off of it when we retested it on this massive gap down. So a small bounce there, but again, getting crushed, and now it's acting as quite clear resistance, getting denied there, closing below, and then well within the area there, acting as resistance. So doesn't look like it wants to push up and make a attempt to bounce higher. I would say right now it's very likely that we're going down here come this upcoming week. Who knows if that's going to be Monday or later on throughout the week. But a very indecisive candle here. It looks like the bulls tried to push it back above, got rejected. Bears tried to push it back down to this level, but got rejected, and sort of a really indecisive close there. So with this candle showing us some red strength, I wouldn't be surprised to see some more selling getting down into this area, the 260 area. And then, of course, we have that white line we talked about from last week's video. That comes into the play as a support area from way back in the February dip. It's not really going to show just this one here, but and then our next support above that, as you can see, is based on some of these sets of lows here. Wouldn't be a surprise to see it go down there and test that area. So right now, expecting to go down here and test out the 261 whole dollar, I'd say. If that can give us a little sort of bounce, I wouldn't expect it to last very long. This 265.25 cent mark here, based on the low here, if we do get below it, would certainly act as a resistance, so don't expect a major bounce back in the upwards direction anytime soon. The bears do have a ton of selling coming in, and although there are buyers, just look at the candle, the price didn't really make a huge stride upwards. I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, to continue to see some selling and downwards pressure come next week. Alrighty, so moving on to the Qs here, you can see that although not exactly the same as SPY, very similar movement. The sellers have stepped in and pushed the price lower. You can see our long-term channel support line holding up almost perfectly here. Nice little bounce. However, things again turning bearish in the short term, and it looks like we certainly want to keep moving in the downwards direction. As soon as we broke this support here and closed well below, it sort of acted as resistance. We tried to push above, but it was more of a fake out to the upside. You can see based on this wick here, pretty tall wick compared to the overall size of the candle. And then again here, the wick piercing it and then just totally getting rejected, closing below that level there. So wouldn't be surprised to watch it, bounce up, maybe test it one more time and continue in the downwards direction. If we scrunch up our chart and look for our next level of support, we can see if anything lines up with where we're at. These highs maybe a little too high. What about these lows? Wow, look at that. Okay, so completely random, but look at these lows over here and look exactly where this candle ran out of strength. Just absolutely crazy, to the T, on the dot. So if we scrunch back up and continue to look and sort of see if there's anything further below us, I would say definitely this point in here. It looks like there was some consolidation throughout that range there, and that comes into play at 162, the whole dollar mark. So look for that to act as a support if again we come down here, break through, and continue lower. Again, to the upside, watching the white line as resistance, and then these highs in here will certainly act as resistance as we try to move in the upwards direction. But again, doesn't look like it really wants to do that right now. It does, all this powerful selling doesn't look like it's ready to come to an end. I would expect a lot more consolidation, sideways movement before we were to see any major bounce and returning to follow the trend in the upwards direction. So skeptical of a bounce, but again, just some levels mapped out. Alrighty, so Apple, you can see, has been going sideways for quite some time now, just sort of trading in between this range. And with the current market conditions, I would say it's one of the better looking stocks that would continue to advance in an upwards direction. After this pretty big move to the upside here, where did we come out of? Let's see, what is this? 161 all the way up to the 233 there. Crazy move if you count that from that low all the way up here. So it's completely normal to see some of this sideways action and consolidation after such a crazy move up, which is, like I said, a powerful thing considering all of the market conditions and a lot of the selling that's been going on. Sure, this does mirror it a little bit, but to see this sideways action and not just rapid descent all the way to our 200 here, or some of these more major support levels, it is looking pretty good for Apple in the long term. Not to talk too much as a fundamentalist, they are a solid company. Everyone has an iPhone. A lot of people use Macs. It's just the company's not going anywhere anytime soon. So of course it's not outrageous to see that it's acting healthily among tough market conditions. Anyways, our levels, like I said, already mapped out for us. This has acted as a really solid support these 3 times. However, up here, a ton of resistance. We can see that the price just keeps getting hammered every time it gets up here. Our 50 SMA is coinciding with that level now, so that's going to add another layer of strength to that resistance. It would be nice to see a bounce and continuation. However, some more sideways action would also be fine. If you're a long-term holder, that nothing that's going to shake you out of it right here. I would say short-term, look for it to just, again, trade throughout these ranges, pretty predetermined based on some of these supports and resistances in the past, and look for those intraday movements in between. And with that, we'll move on. Alrighty, so now Netflix, you can see that unlike Apple, it has been trending with the market and moving in the downwards direction. You can see that we are well below our layer of support that we had in this general area based on what was going on over here. These almost coinciding lows there, you can see acted as resistance beautifully, and we've continued in the downwards direction. Finding little help here for a bounce, but obviously acting as resistance now that we're below it. You can see the price got denied multiple times well within the area of that price. So I would say we are, bears are still in control here. We could see some more lower lows. Doesn't look like it wants to flatten out yet. And again, with the market conditions the way they are, not surprising if it sort of follows and moves in that general direction. Look at that. So right where the price sort of ran out of steam on Friday there is well within the area of these lows here. However, those aren't necessarily going to be what we're looking at right now. Of course, it's this set down here. I would call it somewhere in there, a level of support, and that's right around that 274.50. So a nice number there to act as support. That is a little ways away. If we zoom in here, you can see it's it's getting there, but the price would have to move in the downwards direction about $25 for it to get there. So a little bit of wiggle room in between. Of course, look for some intraday supports and resistances if we do decide to go and trade in between here. Maybe use some intraday strategies for that, because right now, of course, let's call this an area of support. You can see the price bounce there, and it's in the middle, and that would be right around 287.75. You can see that's our level there. Also pretty nice, well within the range there. So those are some levels to keep in mind on the downside, and of course to the upside, we would certainly have to get through this level, which is that one doesn't have a price tag on it, so that's 315.50 just about. To play a round number there on the upside break of that. And then of course this certainly is a really thick area, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it come up if it is going to decide to bounce here, come up, get rejected here, and continue in the downwards direction. So that's Netflix. Alrighty, so now having a look at Tesla. Tesla has been going against the market, and ever since all this kind of craziness with the lawsuits and all that news publicity that was happening, things sort of based out here, and the price has continued in the upwards direction. As you can see there, we got through this major resistance zone based on all these data points that we had, and the price completely went on a rip. So it went up. Not going to say for sure that the price is totally overextended to the upside, but it is getting there. You can see we're sort of dragging that upper Bollinger Band right up. So being skeptical of really big moves to the upside and a continuation, but again, it could always happen. You can see that the bears tried to step in and push the price back down, but again, just goes to show the strength behind it. You can see our close is way up here and we put in this huge tail. So who knows, possibly there could be some continuation of that buying momentum going into Monday. If we get any sort of gap up and a push up to this level, definitely want to be skeptical of how overextended it is once you get into that 350 area right there, where we have that level drawn in from some of these lows down there. Certainly be skeptical if we get up there. That would put this in a pretty overextended state. Again, this is almost a, let's see, from 250, and like I said, we're approaching 350, so you know, a very, very nice move here. Just about $100, not quite, but if it can get up to a $100 move, certainly be skeptical of that with the Bollinger Band the way it is, and just the overextended state. Of course, it could stay that way, like I said, but skeptical, and possibly look for some of these areas if we decide to consolidate and go sideways. That would be more reasonable to me. That would be a sign of strength, really, to show that it's a healthy move up and not just some crazy spasm, someone buying up a ton of it. So that's what we'd like to see on Tesla. So Alibaba here looking like it's sort of following the trend of the market, sort of going in the downwards direction. But finally finding a base here and trying to bounce. If we can put in a higher low here, that certainly would be a good sign that we could see a continuation in the upside. But again, it seems like there's a lot of resistance in this area based on these highs. That's where the low was. I would be skeptical of it breaking through this cleanly. You can see our 50 SMA is coming down and going to be playing a role there shortly. I would be skeptical of a clean break to the upside, so certainly maybe coming up here, testing it, consolidating in that area, and then moving on, but no clean break for the time being. Our supports are drawn in for us. We have this low here, and then if we scrunch the chart up and look way, way back, I don't even know if it's going to show up on the 4-hour chart. Yeah, no. So this low, this support line is coming from something way back on the daily chart, so I'd be skeptical of it holding up immediately. And that level is at 132.80ish just about, so maybe use some Fibonacci extensions for this one on the downside, but right now it would be nice to see this act as a higher low and possibly move up and test this area of congestion on the chart. So we can see Facebook is sort of following along in the market's footsteps, just moving down in a pretty nice and clean manner. You can see our sellers stepped up, a little bounce, and selling again, so I wouldn't be surprised to see another little bounce there, some buyers stepping in trying to get it at a good price. So you can see that there's sort of a little support area down here at 145 just about. You can see that's where the price sort of ran out of steam there and then closed or opened and closed above it and then closed just at it, so a little bit of a support area there, but again, because of how recent it is, because of how little price history we have there, no way to be certain how strong that support is, so be skeptical of that. We were talking about Fibonacci extensions, so let's just draw them out on here and see what we can come up with. If we look at something like that, and then let's zoom in here so we can see a little bit better. So our 61.8 extension level sort of acting as support. You can see there the low is pretty close to it, not exact, but again well within that little web there. And then from there our 100% extension level, if we move 100% from there, we can see we're looking at 136.50ish in that general area, and then our next critical one at 127.12. That's if things start to get pretty out of hand. I wouldn't expect to see that this week per se, but you know, very possible over the course of the next few weeks. If we do continue in the downwards direction, look for these as slight supports and then bounces possibly, but again, nothing's for certain with fib extensions. Our resistances to the upside, we can see this level here based on the low, and also sort of within the range of that high there at 151.84. If we get through that, again, look at all the resistance we have drawn in here from some of these past data points. This would be a really, really choppy area on the chart. So if we do get a bounce into this range, look for those intraday supports and resistances to certainly trade off of those, but I wouldn't be certain of anything, any clear trend being developed in here. Definitely some sideways action with all the resistance, or possibly coming up and just getting totally hammered by it and getting pushed back down. But we will see as the week unfolds. So last but not least, we have NVDA, and this is super interesting for me to see just because I haven't really paid close attention to it up until recently, but this is certainly telling me that NVIDIA can be quite the mover. We've gone from a high up here at $292, pretty much $100, so the opposite of Tesla, down here to 193, so almost a $100 move there to the downside in a really, really short amount of time. You can see how long it took for it to get up there in the first place, and then just completely, what a mover, honestly. Just look at how sharp that descent is. But anyways, we can draw in some really easy levels of support. You can see we have that there. Our resistance acted as a T, or to a T pretty much there. Moving downwards, this is a resistance from way back that we had drawn in. You can see based on this low here. And you can see, look at that, on the day it did decide to get down to that level. Closed right at it there. If we look up top, you can see the close is 210.21. And our line here is 210.09. So on a $200 stock, greater than $200 stock at one time, coming down to just a couple of pennies away, incredible. Predicting that close there, and then you can see it's acted as really solid resistance there, getting beaten back down. Again, price does look a little overextended to the downside with this Bollinger Band. We're sort of dragging it down there. That doesn't mean, like it's discussed on the opposite end, that it's going to necessarily bounce off of that since it's so overextended the downside. It could always continue, but be skeptical of those bounces just because of how much selling has gone in or gone through. There should be, and I say should very cautiously, maybe should isn't the best word, but being at such an overextended state, I wouldn't be surprised rather to see it go sideways, take more of a breath, and figure it out here, and then either continue in the downwards direction or in the upwards direction for a bounce. But again, in the overextended state, it would be nice and more predictable to see some more sideways action before just assuming that the selling will continue and the downwards direction will come. So that is NVIDIA, again showing me that it can be quite the mover, going $100 in range there, similar to Tesla as we discussed. And of course some resistances on the way back up if we do decide to bounce here. 224.50-ish based on some of these highs in here, and then of course our lows there going to act as resistance, 229, and after that this set 235, and so on and so forth. But again, that would be a pretty powerful bullish move in this really bearish environment in the short term. So again, look for some sideways action and then a price determination to happen. So that's going to wrap things up. If you've made it this far, I certainly want to thank you, and I'd encourage you to head on over to my channel and check out some of the other videos. If you, again, if you made it this far, you certainly have an interest in the market and trading in general, so go check it out. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see me review any other tickers, leave them down below in the comments section, or feel free to reach out through email. If you think I missed something, anything like that, I'd love to interact with you guys, have a chat. And with that, I hope you have a green trading week coming up on Monday.